It's April, and some things are winding up like baseball, and some things are winding down like hockey. Thankfully, Pennzoil Synthetics provides your vehicle with complete protection for top engine performance no matter what season it is. So you don't have to worry about ups and downs. Pennzoil. Make the switch.
A super and a Nova.
A super and a Nova, Nance says. Yay or nay on that, national panel?
Nay.
I'm yaying that. It was 79-62. It wasn't that close. I made a big deal about recent championship games being the best ever. This wasn't, but the Big Ragu and Mr. Right, where it all ranks. Also, hello, friend. Hello, friends. Let's go around the horn.
It's Around the Horn, the show of competitive banter. Here's Tony Reali.
This team, you all said it yesterday and earlier in this tournament. Any guy in their top 8 could be the guy in any game, and they'd still win by 17.7 points. Why am I just giving points away? Dante DiVincenzo was that guy last night. Let's start there. 31-5, 3-2, the dunks, the threes, the two-handed blocks. Woody, how many Final Fours have you covered? 30 maybe in your career? Just about?
28.
Did Dante DiVincenzo just have the best title game ever?
No, the first one I saw, and it's not because it was the first one, it was Bill Walton scoring 44 points and missing one shot in the entire game, and actually had 4 called back because they were dunks, and dunks weren't allowed then. So I think it's tough to stop that one. Michael Jordan in the national championship game against for North Carolina against Georgetown. Not only what he did in the game, but the play he made at the end of the game with the jump shot. Okay. So there have been others of this magnitude, I think, but I believe that in the last 20 years, there's nothing like this from somebody off the bench. I mean, we're talking about a guy who is a Super Six starter. Basically, that's what they call him. And I think he did a great job because they were behind. They needed a spark. He gave it to them.
Glenn Yates?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit unfair to him, though, because he was the 6th man of the year in the Big East, so it's not as if he's just sort of starting randomly here and there. I was impressed the fact that he had a great tournament. He scored in double digits 3 times. So that MOP award wasn't just something that he earned last night, even though that game was incredible. Late in that second half, you knew if he got a big play and he got a dunk, they were going to take off, and they did. He's winking at cameras. He's blocking shots. It was a star performance that was actually fun to watch, which is annoying considering how late that game was going.
The oldest man in Old Manistan, Clinton Yates. Pablo Torre, how about you?
But speaking of old men, you do, in fairness to the legends of old, have to go back and consider Kareem. You have to consider all of these guys. Danny Manning in 88, that's probably the last greatest example, I would say, before DiVincenzo, because DiVincenzo, one of the things that's so fascinating about this is that 6th man component. Yes, it's the most points ever scored by anybody off the bench. Yes, it's the most points scored since an overtime game in 88. Glenn Rice and another guy did it. All that's great. But the fact is, he is destigmatizing the 6th man, right? The entire lesson of this game and this season for Villanova maybe is that it doesn't matter if you start. It's who plays when it matters, who finishes games, who is the James Harden, Manu Ginobili type player. He's not those guys, but my God, he is the shining example in recent memory of why it doesn't matter if you're not starting for your team, and that's a big change in basketball culture.
The shining example of that other guy you were talking about, John Morton, Seton Hall in 1989.
The immortal John Morton.
And if you're going back to Kareem in college, Pablo, you have to go back to Lou Alcindor, not Kareem. Yes, how about you, Ramona Shelburne?
Look, it may not be the best title game performance of all time, but it's certainly the most improbable, right? Like, who had Dante DiVincenzo in the office pool as the guy being the most outstanding player of this? I think it was, when you watch the game, it felt like Michigan was punching him right in the mouth coming out of the gates, and like him hitting all those 3-pointers in the first half really kept Villanova in this until they could turn the tide and get everyone else going. And he did it on a night when the player of the year, Jalen Brunson, really had an off night. I mean, DiVincenzo went 10 for 15 shooting shooting from the field. He couldn't miss. He had that swagger. And, we're all reading up on this guy, right? Because even though he's a six man, he's the guy everyone had to write their stories on last night. Last time they were in the championship game, he was a freshman. He couldn't play, but he played the role of Buddy Hield in practice. And Josh Hart, who was on that team, who now plays for the Lakers, said, man, all I remember is him kicking our butt in practice all the time. So he clearly has had this in him. It was just waiting for the right moment to come out.
You talk about this team, though, and how deep they were all season long and all tournament long. I mean, they won for the last month every game they played by double digits, which makes me want to rank this team if we can, if you guys have the bandwidth to do so. I saw this on ESPN.com. Of the 80 national champions, this Villanova team ranked 32nd by John Gassaway. Of the last 34 champions in the modern era, they were 11. But that's 17.7 points per game margin. That's a big one historically. Pablo, where do you rank this Villanova team? How do you view them?
I think I would put them higher than 32, but I understand how that list was constructed, right? You're dealing with all of these teams that were loaded with four-year players. You're evaluating NBA talent, basically, so I get why they're not ranking that high. But in terms of where they rank as a run through a tournament, they're the third team ever to win every game since March began by double digits. And the other two teams are Bill Russell and, that guy we just mentioned, Bill Walton. So the fact is, they are in rare company, and we have to appreciate that they made the most random time of year completely predictable, and that is incredibly, incredibly impressive.
Ramona, how historic was this run?
I mean, I think it's historic, but to me, they're just emblematic of the era that we're in. This is the one-and-done era, and in previous eras, there was tons of teams that had 2, 3, 4-year guys that played and came together as a team, and coaching was about developing players over the course of an entire college career, not just recruiting the best stars that go on to the NBA. And so this team is kind of a blend of both, right? Mikal Bridges is going to be a lottery pick, Brunson maybe, but other than that, we don't really see a lot of NBA talent on this team. They're a big enough school to recruit that type of talent. And so they keep them together. They have the highest amount of talent of guys who will actually stay in school for 4 years.
Woody, can I ask you to put a number on it? Can you rank them in the last 80 years?
Yeah, 22. I've already looked through it. This is a throwback team. You make comparisons, Ramona, because they do have guys who have been there 4 and 5 years, red shirts and things of that nature. It's not a one and done. So you can compare them to the North Carolinas of 25 years ago, Florida when it won back-to-back championships. And I think that's a fair comparison. And I think when you put them in the entire package there, if you would, I believe they're in the top 25. They're not far away from 32, but having remembered some of the great teams, and when you talked about San Francisco and UCLA and the North Carolina teams.
That's a tough comparison because the eras are so different. But 11 in the last 30 plus years. 2 titles in 3 years has been done 4 times in the last 30 years. So, Clinton, let me ask you this. Dynastically speaking, Goliathly speaking, where is Villanova right now?
I think they are low on the Goliath scale, but only because of the fact that the history for some of these other schools is just so long. It's hard to really compare Villanova to a Duke, to a Syracuse, to a North Carolina. People don't even know the name of the building that Villanova plays in, and that's just something that you're not going to be able to overcome without the time going on. But right now, in terms of the titles and what Jay Wright has done, they are absolutely there on the Goliath scale, just a little up.
Pablo?
They are astride the sport right now, and I hear this term blue blood tossed around a lot. The funny thing is, a blue blood, like the term, it's about aristocracy, right? It's about the people whose veins you could see through their very light skin because they didn't work in the fields. Villanova is the opposite of that sort of team, right? They have recruiting classes that didn't crack. I believe 24th was the highest ranked recruiting class they had. These are guys who are developed through labor. That's why they're special. It's not because they inherit the best prospects, because they work them into shape, and that's really impressive.
Wow, the blue blood.
Labor.
It's laying out of the sun. The labor. And I was expecting Woody just to scream out, the aristocrats at the end of that. Although you might just ruin it and say, the aristocrats, and we'll move on. 2 titles puts Jay Wright in a new tier as well. Where's Mr. Wright in the pantheon of coaches now, Woodrow?
Well, I would put him right up there in the top 5 of the active coaches. He had multiple championships now. How many guys that are coaching have had 5 straight years where they've averaged more than 30 victories? Only 2 guys in college basketball. Bill Self, who's done it, and now Jay Wright. And given they've been a number one seed, talking about the last 5 years, they've been a number one seed, 3 times, and a number 2 seed twice. This team, I think, and he's doing it in the right way. If you watch that team play in the tournament, I think here's a coach that's really established himself among Calipari, Coach K, Roy Williams, Bill Self, maybe Boeheim.
Clint Yates?
Yeah, it's tough, though, because once again, it is hard to impeach the, tradition of some of these guys. Coach K, he's got USA basketball experience. He's got all the pros that he's put in. You think about guys like Boeheim, who, in terms of what the Big East became, was just so important to college basketball. Jay Wright, although he is a very good-looking and sharp-dressed man, is kind of boring in the way that he does it. And so that I think it's harder for people to sort of consider him as good. In terms of the way that he wins, absolutely excellent. But as a personality, he's not the guy that a lot of those other guys are.
Let's play a little odds maker here. And I'm going to start with you, Ramona, because this is your area of expertise. Chances an NBA team could entice Jay Wright to leave, and would that be a smart move for Wright?
I think they will certainly try. There's going to be 5 or 6 coaching openings in the NBA this year, and his name has come up previously, but in other years it's been like, the Phoenix Suns, and that's not something that gets you to leave a situation like Villanova where you're going to win 2 out of 3 national championships. But this year there's some interesting jobs that come open, and he certainly plays an NBA style, right? They run that pick and roll offense. They got 5 guys on the floor who can shoot. They have positionless basketball. He certainly would translate to the NBA. He's only the 24th highest paid coach in college basketball, so at the very least he'll get a nice raise out of it.
Pablo, you want to answer that?
Yeah, he's making $2.4 million a year right now, so he's clearly getting an enormous raise, and he will be getting offers because he runs a program, a scheme that can translate to the league. They shot more threes than twos. That's incredibly forward-thinking NBA basketball, and you take out that variable, right? He's more than just a recruiter. He's actually developing players that should translate to the NBA world as well.
All right, last thing, the most 2018 of all things we're going to discuss today. Does anybody want to address DiVincenzo's Twitter account and the tweets that were found last night? When he was asked about it at the podium, he said he didn't do that. Team released a statement saying he was hacked, and that went away, and DiVincenzo's entire Twitter account disappeared today. Clinton, you want to talk about how that played out?
Couple things about that. I didn't think it was an appropriate place to ask that after the game at the podium in that moment that he was having it. I'm not saying that it was completely unimportant, but then again, if every single thing I said or wrote down when I was 14 and or in high school was public information now, I probably wouldn't be sitting here in this seat. Overall, though, I thought he handled it relatively well. He said, listen, that was my account. I don't remember doing it. The school, on the other hand, don't tell me it was hacked, guys. Okay? We all know how this works in 2018. You can just own up to it. We can have that conversation. I think you apologize, you move on, and it stays there.
Pablo?
Yeah, the microscope on the internet follows prominence, follows celebrity, so this was inevitable in a certain sense. But the question really is he proud of the things he said when he was 14?
Right.
I am guessing, we are all guessing, that he is not. And in that case, I think this is sort of a non-story, although it's clearly a case of somebody saying many regrettable things when he was a far younger person.
Does he need to address it, Ramona?
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely needed to address it. And I know it wasn't comfortable for him up there on the podium, but it's better to have asked him than to not have asked him, right? Let's get his side of the story. And if it was me who tweeted something stupid, I'd want somebody to ask me what that was about. But, look, it was not just one tweet. There was one tweet that quoted a rap lyric that used the N-word, but there's some other homophobic tweets. So I think the story continues, and I think we need to find out what he was really thinking when he was 14, which I assume he will tell us.
Thanks for your thoughts on that. All right, Villanova not the only winner last night. Let's get to the Around the Horn Bracket Challenge. Woody, you were so close. Tim Kalishaw heading out pro for the panelist win. 97, 96%, nothing to be ashamed of. Pablo, Ramona, welcome to the middle. CY, DMP, CD. But most importantly, our overall winner from the over 79,000 bids, Tyler J. Kelman, 15. Yeah. Bravo! The riches of our kingdom belong to you. You get Woody's blackboard for an upcoming show. Congratulations.
Wow. Yeah, 25 of them.
Woody, take some points. 96 percentile.
Around the Horn is brought to you by National Car Rental. Go National. Go like a pro.
It's a normal day. You're rushing out the door to get to work on time when suddenly, there it is, the dreaded service light. So what is it this time? Tire pressure, low coolant, time for an oil change? When it comes to service lights, head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. Drive in today and make the switch to Pennzoil. Ask for Pennzoil Synthetics, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube, leave worry behind.
Buy or sell.
And now, the Masters. Oh, look, Tiger Woods playing this year. He practiced with Phil today. Break it down for us, friends, hole by hole, and also whether Tiger is back, because people are wondering if Tiger is back. So if you could please tell us if Tiger is back. And also if it'd be better for golf if Tiger won. Yada, yada, yada. Amen corner. Azaleas. Woody Page, go.
Tony, I don't know whether you're aware that this is the most anticipated Masters in years and years because Tiger is back. Am I buying that he's winning? Yes. No, I'm buying that he'll be in the hunt during the week. You have to realize he's won there 4 times. He knows it better than anybody playing in the tournament except maybe Phil Mickelson. I would pick Phil Mickelson to have a better week, really, than Tiger Woods, and I think that would make half the people watching.
You got Phil over Tiger. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, Clinton Yates, how about you? What are you watching?
In his heyday, they used to ask, will you take Tiger or the field? I'll still take the field in this scenario because I'm not sure how much I trust Tiger's health. But overall, is he back? I think you've already had this win. Look at the excitement for it. He's there, and if he makes the cut, I think it's already a good enough story for him on his comeback trail. He doesn't need to win for this to be a success.
Pablo?
I am personally ready to claim or reclaim, as it were, Tiger Woods as the greatest Asian athlete of all time. And in fact, there are 4 such individuals of Asian descent among the favorites. We got Ricky Fowler, part Japanese, Jason Day, half Filipino, and of course Hideki Matsuyama, self-explanatory. So give me the odds on that. I'd like to bet on that.
All right. What is it? The AAJA is really proud of Pablo Torre. Yes. Shout out. Ramona Shelburne, how about you?
You know who's really ready for Tiger to be back? Sports writers. Like, everyone is so ready to write that narrative again of Tiger coming back. But, look, I think he's going to... I know. I stepped right. You just said narrative and all those,
you're doing it again, Ramona. You're killing yourself.
I'm daring you over there.
Yeah. I think just stop talking. Anybody want to yell out somebody who's going to win? What do you have? Look,
Rory's a co-favorite.
Rory for you, Ramona?
See why? Speed,
Torrey?
Poulter.
Jason Day and his Asian friends.
Okay, thank you. Buy or sell 2. Roll tape here.
Do I think he's the best quarterback in the draft? No. I think he's the best player in the draft. How about that? Does that mean I think he's a fit for every team? No.
Jim Mora Jr. on his former QB, Josh Rosen. This has been a week and a half of this, Ramona. What are you buying today?
I'm totally buying this. Like, Jim Warren never said anything controversial when he was in Los Angeles. So for him to come out and say something that feels actually very honest to me, and I don't remember it, like, being challenged intellectually. Like, that actually is a good thing, right? Somebody's pushing you, and you're a smart guy, and he's going to be stimulated by working with great minds of the game. Like, this is a good quality.
Woody Page?
It sort of runs in the family. If you remember his father, his most famous quote was, playoffs! What are we talking about, playoffs? But in the case of this, he suffers from maybe the disease I have sometimes, like yesterday, foot and mouth disease, and he keeps trying to walk it back, and it gets worse for him every time he opens his mouth.
Yeah, I don't really understand why he's doing any of this. I sort of understand what he's saying because he's being truthful to sort of the larger reality. But in the context of football, this feels like a little bit of a sneak diss. He's saying you might not want to deal with him because I didn't necessarily like him that much, but he's a great guy. It sort of seems duplicitous, and I don't really like it.
Bob Latour.
There is certainly some code here. There is certainly some language we don't like to hear if you're a football coach. But keep in mind, the upshot of this is that he's steering his guy away from the Cleveland Browns. Maybe there's a larger conspiracy to help Mr. Rosen as opposed to hurt him if that's, in fact, the outcome.
Ramona Shelburne, Clinton Yates. That horn came kind of quick for you guys, didn't it?
Right.
Here's a lightning bolt. Woody Page, Pablo Torre, showdown next.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Bobby. Bobby, the basketball boy, they called him. Bobby wanted to go pro someday, so he was always out in the driveway shooting hoops. But one day, his mom came out and told him,
"Hey, your wife wants you to take out the trash?"
His mom was visiting, and Bobby was a grown man. He had kind of missed his window. Plus, no one had ever seen him actually make a basket. But on the other hand, Bobby had heard how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. So, it was all good.
Woody Page, Pablo Torre in showdown. Here's Kenley Jansen.
Who cares? Who cares?
Well, fans care because you normally
I mean, it's one game.
Okay.
It was just one game. It was a very long game, Kenley, because seconds of that home run that was allowed, which tied it, and then the D-backs won it 5 hours and 46 minutes in total in 15 innings. Fair or foul from Jansen to say it's just one game, Woody?
Well, it's foul because they had to use up their entire bullpen. It's going to affect them for the next 2 or 3 days. Plus, it wasn't just one game. The other time he has already pitched this year, he didn't pitch well then. His miles per hour on his cutter are down 3 miles.
Kenley Jansen has pitched in 30 postseason games as a reliever. No one else this decade is even close. The guy has a particular perspective on this issue. He's describing it accurately. We only care because he said something that actually was honest.
Okay, so you think it's just one game, and this was just one showdown. Point Woody Page. I will get a hit, I will get a hit, I will get a hit. Dexter Fowler started something here. Pass it on to Jose Ramirez, Josh Reddick, and the St. Louis Blues. Are you on board with this line of positive thinking, Pablo?
So part of me is because I actually took a class in college called positive psychology, and this seems to be very in line with that. But I also read Moneyball. And it turns out that hits aren't the only way to be a valuable baseball player. Like, get on base other ways. Stop fetishizing the hit.
Pablo, I think you got to realize, though, that it's self-motivation. It's great. I wrote, I will win today. I will win today. It's working so far.
It's working so far. You got that extra time after the horn. I'm allowing it. It's called around the horn. You worked it around the horn. Point Woody, 2-0 going into showdown 3. The entire world has used up Houston. We have a problem jokes, so you guys can't. But you saw what happened with the unveiling of the World Series, what they're calling a banner, but it's not really a banner. It's underneath there. It's somewhere underneath there. They brought out a leaf blower and some other tool to get this down. That was about 55 seconds here. Go ahead, Woody Page.
I'm giving it a -5 because you can't get one thing. You have one thing to get right. You've had 6 months to work on it, and you can't do it, and that's not a pennant. It's a sign. It's a wooden sign.
Keep in mind, the Astros were the team whose computer system was hacked because they were super advanced technologically. Their computer was hacked because they were super advanced technologically, and now you have leaf blowers. Great.
All right, Woody Page, I believe that you will win today. 2-1 is the final.
And for those of you that don't think we take this seriously, it's competition. We all want to win. I want to thank the 50,000 people who retweeted and tweeted back about what happened yesterday. I messed up. I take responsibility.
There you go.
Act like I'm 14 years old. But I want to mention that Augusta National security guards have gotten a list of words that customers there can't say during the week. One of them is dilly dilly, another one is mashed potatoes, and one is doobie doobie doo. My goodness, people, hold it down.
That's our champion today. We're off for the rest of the week for the Masters. We'll see you Monday.
Ryan! I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.